Hello, everybody. Welcome to the To Be Decided podcast with me, Mr. Steve, and my co-host, Mrs. Bingley. How are you doing, Kate? How are you feeling today on this slightly less warmer or hotter Wednesday?
Indeed, the heat has broken, and I can once again be fully clothed. Everybody is grateful for it. I'm not doing too bad. Just been and done more exercise than I've done in a long time. So we'll see how badly I'm punished for it tomorrow. But how are you doing, Steve?
Well, yeah, like I said, feeling a little bit more cooler than we did last week. That's why we just didn't do one. It was just so hot. We just couldn't cope with the heat. It was much more easy. It's just like we can't to sit here and talk is very for a couple of hours is quite taxing. So we thought let's try and get back to doing one of these. Before we get started, I have. It's another confession. The last podcast I started off with a confession. Now, if you remember some episodes back,
you once told me the world was going to roll me.
Yeah, well, there was that, and so a couple of episodes back, we was talking about books and adaptations from books to screen, and one particular book that I enjoyed. If you remember correctly, was How Project Mary.
Yes.
I have now seen the film. And I know you've seen the film, but you haven't read the book. Now, obviously, I'll try not to spoil too much of the book because there is elements within the film that does a great job. I will say this right now. Ryan Gosling, never really watched any of his films before, but he does a great job of being playing as Grace. I will say that, and I can say that hand on heart. Like I said, not a massive fan of Ryan Gosling's, but the adaptation's really good. It's 2.5 hour film. So they managed to cram in a lot. Now, there's loads of people who have read. I did this thing where I watched the Martian, then read the book. So I thought, because I knew the film was coming out, unfortunately, I did say this on the actual episode. If you might recall, I did say they spoiled it for me a little bit because when you read books, you like to imagine what the character looks like. You don't need that, or you don't get that with this because they announced the film when I read the book, and they did the book film tie-in, which is kind of spoiler because then you have Ryan Gosling's face plastered all over the book. Great if you like Ryan Gosling, but I'm not, like I said, never really watched any of his stuff before, but I had an image of what he looked like as Grace. So all I could see whilst reading was his face. Now, like I said, I did mention that. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but I do want to say the film was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'd be interested to see how you take on when you finally do get to see the book. Now, there will be a lot of people say, people will complain one way or another. Oh, they left out this, they left out my favorite scene or whatever. I don't want to spoil too much, but the book, in terms of how many hours, you probably get through it in a couple of days. Maybe, I don't know how many hours you can read for, but you probably read it in a couple of days. If you were to constantly read it, it's around about the 20-hour mark at least. But it's a 2.5 hour film, so they've obviously condensed it enough. They do that with films; they have to, obviously, for pace. So there was a scene when I was like, oh, okay, that's fair enough. I can understand why they've sped it up a little bit, but yeah, they've kept a lot of the essence of the book. They've kept hold of that the connection between Grace and Rocky's relationship was very good. I did enjoy it, and I will say there's a poignant moment in the film that has led me to now listen to one. Now, in the book, it doesn't really state the songs and stuff, but there's pop culture references, and that's very much for Andy Weir's sort of thing anyway. He did reference Marvel, like Iron Man in The Martian, which I know to be true. So he does do a lot of pop culture references. I thought it was interesting when I'm going to be very careful what I say. I don't want to spoil it. But there was one moment in the film. Immediately, when I got to the end of the film, I had to then look up the credits because I should have done my research. No, let's have a look. There's one particular moment I really want to get to. Yeah, okay. It's Sandra Bullock. And if you know that moment, without spoiling it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's a very poignant moment in the film. And it's what Grace... So throughout the book and the film, there are flashbacks as we go along the story. And we're reminded as to why Grace is doing what he's doing for Project Hail Mary and why it's called Project Hail Mary. And there's a moment in the film where Sandra Fuller plays a very important scene.
Yeah.
I think you know what I mean. Now, I had to go to the end of the credits to find out. I'll be honest with you. I'm not someone who likes this particular person's music. It's a musical thing I'm getting to. There's a song in the film which I thought fit the film very well. And if you know, you know. But yeah, I've never watched, and I think I can mention it because it doesn't spoil the book. Harry Styles. There's a Harry Styles song in the film.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who it was. I didn't know when I was doing that particular scene, I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know, I don't listen to his music, so I don't know the song. I had to listen to that song about 5 times.
I
had to listen to that song 5 times. And it's become like a bit of a backseat sort of like favourite song of mine. And I think it's related to the film. So it's related to the film. If I'd heard that song when it first came out, I wouldn't have bothered with it because it's who it's by. Again, I'm never against Harry Styles. There's no hate here. I just don't like his style of music. It's not for me, like I think we discussed this when we talked about our music tastes on a few episodes back as well. But oh my God, that for me, that scene really hit it hard because of like how poignant it is, and you've got to understand, without spoilers again, why that was important. And when you read the book and you watch the film, you can sort of like you go. I did this thing. I went to YouTube to watch the video of it. I was like, okay. If you go into the comment section of the actual video for Harry Styles' song, that song, it's who else is here because they've just seen the film. Nearly everyone writes the same comment. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here because I watched the film. I'm here. Who else is here because I've got Project Hail Mary. Most people are commenting that phrase or that, making that connection. So, yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought it was a really good film. I enjoyed it immensely. I'm on one of those spectrums where if I miss the ending, I have to go back and watch. I woke up the next day, even though I had work, I had to watch the ending because I'd missed the ending. And even though I know the ending, I missed it and I wanted to watch it because I didn't feel complete. Unfortunately, I fell asleep towards the ending and was like, I'd watched it late and I should have waited. I should have waited a little bit longer, but I couldn't wait. It was a time when I just finished work. I had work the next day and, But this was a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, because we did the podcast last week, I thought I'd save it for this week to mention it, and I wanted to get your reaction from it. So yeah, I finally seen the film.
It's such a good film.
It is, honestly, it absolutely is. And like I said, I'm happy with the outcome. As there's some obviously some scenes that I'm like, well, they didn't, they did it slightly different, but they did it for pace. Like I said, you're looking at about maybe less than 20 hours, but a roughly 20-hour book get you through it in a couple of days. You're not going to get that in 2.5 hours. So yeah, it's condensed for read. There's a couple of scenes that I know that are funny in the book that they just for pace reasons they just left out. But that's fine. I'm happy with it. I'm happy that I'd seen it. But yeah, that was my thing that I've been holding on to for a couple of weeks. I really can't wait to do the podcast so I can mention it to Kate. So yeah, but I'll look forward to your as and when you do get a chance to read it. If you get a chance to read it, I'm sure. I'm sure you have some different opinions and different ways of seeing the book over the movie. Then there's that you watch the film first, but yeah,
it'll definitely be interesting. I don't usually watch the movie first, then read the book, so we'll have to see how it goes.
No, yeah, absolutely, yes, but yeah, I was just thought, gonna get that out of the way straight away. Okay, anyway, that said and done. I'm sat here drinking my cold. Oh, I say cold drink. It's slightly warmer than I wanted it to be. Just before we started, I thought, I'm going to pour myself a drink, and it's a lot more stronger than I thought. Hey, I'm not sponsored, but it's a Roku gin, which is a Japanese gin. It's really nice, but it's quite. But I may have done a lot more pouring of the gin than the mixer. But yeah,
it's just the way I like it.
So if it goes a little bit, if I go a little bit off script, you know why. But a drink was much needed because it's warm. So yeah, I've got that. Got my drink ready. We're ready to talk, and we can talk about this week. Well,
what's the topic this week, Steve?
Interestingly, I thought it'd be interesting to go down the road of talking about paranormal. It's like what your beliefs are, whether if that's the kind of thing that you want to, get into. Obviously, we play ghost hunting games. I'm not going to say why or what.
Obligatory podcast, as mentioned. Yeah.
just listen to every podcast. Yeah, exactly. Just listen to every podcast that we've done. But yeah, I play a lot of video games. I know one of our viewers, Silent, has done this in real life, and I'd be very interested in doing it. I have in the past with some friends. We've taken a camera with a bit of night vision ability. We did some sort of base testing around certain areas. As you recall, when you visited me a couple of weeks back when we watched Wicked, in and around that area is a very key areas for certain activities that have taken place that we've learned from the history of the area that certain things have happened. So we followed those areas. Obviously, we did this at night. So, suffice to say, did I do it? We didn't break in anywhere. We didn't, we didn't break into people's homes or anything like that. It wasn't like that. But we did go to areas where we believed that there could be activity. It's very interesting. It was like a one-off test that we did, and I've never done one since. And I'd love to do another one. I'd love to find out.
I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, just sort of, like I said, we tried some base testing. We never really had like an EMF. But I'd love to come back up to York. I'm sure that will happen at some point, because York is like, historically, we know there's been, it has its own ghost walks, as it does in London as well. There's London ghost tours that you can have. But I was very interested in doing something like that. And then, basically getting onto that subject of what people's beliefs are. Now, I'm more of a, I don't disbelieve anyone who tells me, because that's their belief. That's what they want to go down. If they say, oh, look, I've seen this, or I've heard this, and I've experienced this or that. I'm very much, I believe in my own two eyes kind of thing. But again, that's how I want to be able to accept it. And that's purely because I think it's more of a scientific thing of like, I suppose there's a scientific thing there where I'm like, is that true? But then I've experienced something. I'm like, now I'm definitely more on the side of belief than I was before because I've experienced things, Um, I'd say recently in the last few years, there was probably about a couple of years ago, I started to experience things, and I think it is kind of linked to, personal tragedies, people like dying and stuff. Obviously, I don't want to get too personal on this because it can be a little bit more still kind of fresh. But yeah, I've had experiences where I've been woken up by it, and it's the most. I don't know how to describe it, but basically, I saw a figure next to my bed, and it scared the living daylights of me to the point where I couldn't speak. I wanted to say, "Get the fuck out," but I just couldn't. My mouth was dry. But there was something there. Something was present. Something, and I couldn't describe it other than the fact that it had eyes and a mouth, but it was all black, and it just scared the crap out of me. Like, I genuinely, this was definitely a case of I believe in my own two eyes. I've seen what I've seen, and now that exists. Whatever science tells me that is, I'm not sure if I want to believe that because I've witnessed something. I don't, I'm not sure how I want to perceive it, to be honest. I think that's more. It's more of a. If I believe it, then there's got to be other things out there that I have to believe it, or I don't need to. I don't know. I really don't know what to think of that particular incident. I remember. I may have mentioned this to you, so you've given me advice as to how best to keep things at bay. So I've followed that advice, and since then, nothing's happened. But I know I'm not the only one to have witnessed something within my family. I'll come to you in a second, but I'll get out my thoughts at least. These.
I want to hear about this family story.
So in my family home, when we were kids, we never knew this at the time. We probably wouldn't have accepted it. We moved into a house. Apparently, someone had passed away. Now, I don't know if it, but I know my brother said he had witnessed something, or he believed he had witnessed a ghost. But he's definitely said he's seen something. Now, his description of it fits very well with a lot of people's what they've seen when they've seen the ghost. He said, and I remember this vividly. This is something I will never forget. It goes against what I've experienced, but it's still part of what, like I said, I don't take anything away from people. If they've seen it, they've seen it. So his description of ghosts was seeing an outline of a figure, but it's like when you pour tea leaves over that person if they're invisible. If someone's invisible and you pour tea leaves over them, all you can see is the outline of a figure, but with the black specks, of tea leaves. If you can imagine that, you might have an image in your mind as to what that is or looks like.
I can kind of picture what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that was his description. My sister had said she thought she heard our mother call her to her room. But that couldn't have been possible because my mother was not present. So I now understand, and this is from obviously ghost hunting games, but there's things that do exist. this is an actual thing in terms of ghost hunting. Mimics do this kind of thing. So we don't know. The fact that we don't know, it's hard to describe. And I think, when you're kids, you can be kind of susceptible to these types of things. Obviously there's the kids' imaginations being stronger. There's that theory to it. But it was just odd. It's just very, very odd. It doesn't stop there. It extends to my father. Again, this is a personal thing, but this is going to be difficult to explain without proof of anything, because I'm talking on a podcast with no visual things. But I have to believe this is true, because on my father's side, my dad was he was the youngest. He was the 10th born out of my uncles and aunts. And prior to him being, my nan was expecting twins, and she lost both of them. Then they managed, obviously that kind of traumatic. I would assume that would be traumatic, at least, being a parent losing twins. Then they have my dad, so he was the 10th, but prior to him there was 2 babies that didn't make it. I believe miscarriages. I don't think stillborns, but miscarriages certainly. Now there was a photograph, and both this is a long time ago. This is both my grandparents are no longer around anymore. But there was a picture of my nan and granddad. And when my nan passed away, there was one set of eyes that could be seen. And I'd never seen it, but I had heard about this. This was very much a big family sort of story that we've all sort of like learned and grown up with, been told throughout the years. Now, that was put to one side. And then a few years passed, my granddad passed away. Same photo. And the second set of eyes could be seen in the photo. Again, I have no evidence of this. I don't have any proof of this. I know this is just, I have to believe this is the case, because this is, I believe what people say, because that's what their beliefs are. I thought absolutely. I don't think that there's anything. I think it's just that does exist. I just haven't seen it myself, but I've heard that being a thing. There was other photographs from my aunt had seen, where she had seen in a photograph of a grave site, where in one of the trees. Sorry, Kate. Yeah. So so there was another photograph that my aunt had seen. And she said she's seen a photograph where she's seen in the photograph there was someone's. I can't remember the connection, which is what would make this more relevant. But at the moment, I've only got the image in my mind of being told this. But yeah, there's another photograph where there was a tree in the gravesite where a face could be seen in the tree. And if anyone who's seen the film It, there is a scene where something similar in the film happens, where a face is seen in the tree. Now, the reason I'm only mentioning that is because there could be people trying to make connections. I just want to point out that I don't think this is a connection. It's just, what's the word? Coincidental. I think it's just coincidental that that scene exists in the film and that picture does exist in real life. So I want to separate the two. Again, I don't have those pictures. I can't prove it. We are doing an audible thing where it's podcast only. I just want to say that those things I've been told about, and I don't disbelieve them. I just can't think what they could be. I'm not scientifically, I'm not like parapsychologist or anything like that. I know that there's, I'm not a parapsychologist or demonologist in any sort of way, and so I don't know how to separate what truths there could be. There was something else I was going to mention. I completely slipped my mind. Sorry. Whilst I was talking, I did think of another incident. I can't think of it now. Hopefully it'll come to me. But yeah, there's been a few things that have happened in my family, at least within my family. Things that, something I've experienced, something my families have experienced. Obviously, sisters, my brother. It's just the idea that is a thing, and it's possible that they have actually happened. I don't know how to go about explaining that, but it's very interesting. And I really wish I could think of what entered my mind. It sort of came in and then left again, and I can't bring that thought back again, which is a shame, because it was another example of what I think it was a photograph I'm trying to think of. I think of it. It's really going to bug me now. But yeah, I'm really sorry. I can't bring that to the.
It's fine.
Mind. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of anything like this? Or what experiences do you have? Is there anything you can add to any of these without seeing the evidence? Like, I guess you probably can't, but what beliefs do you have?
I mean, I'm firmly of the belief that kids know us more than we do.
Yeah.
So seeing things when you're a child, some people say it's imagination, but me and my younger sisters have all, seen things, felt things, heard things growing up. And sorry, give me 1 sec. I'm just going to step into the hallway. There we go. I can see Luke's mic picking up my voice. And like, there is something to be said for, like when you're asleep, things like sleep paralysis, seeing a shadow figure at the foot of your bed is one of the most common forms of sleep paralysis in the world. But for me, a lot of, like you called it, parapsychology does boil down to psychology. I think for me, call it wishful thinking, but things will manifest for people who are open to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it before. Not Baba Bingley, but my other sister, used to see ghosts when she was a kid.
Yeah.
In and around the house. At one point, she was regularly woke up. We say woke up, but she regularly was screaming in the middle of the night because of this face of a red-headed child coming through the wardrobe, who looked maybe 1 or 2 years older than me at the time. And it wasn't until years later that our mother revealed that 1 or 2 years before me, she'd had an abortion, and the child was had strawberry-coloured hair.
Right.
Or looked like it would have had strawberry-coloured hair. Or, she'd imagined it was strawberry-coloured hair or something along those lines. It might have been that her boyfriend was ginger, thinking about it. It was a very long time ago. She used to see our great-granddad. At one point, she talked about a man chasing away this red-headed girl. And they were, oh, well, what does he look like? And she really struggled to describe it. But then we went over to my grandparents' house, and they had a framed, painted portrait of my great-grandfather, who died a couple of months before I was born. And she turned around and goes, oh, Mum, that's him. That's the guy who chases away the girl. My other sister is about 5 years younger than I am, by the way. So we've been dead for 5.5 years at this
point. Right.
If not
okay.
Longer.
Yeah.
Okay. I personally haven't ever seen anything. but I'm not open to seeing things.
Yeah.
I know that would freak me out too much. But as you've experienced, I do be like our friend B, who is lurking in voice chat at the minute, likes to call me a sensitive. Personally, I disagree with that label. I'm not a sensitive. Finn, my sister, is a sensitive, for sure. I prefer to think of myself as more of a conduit. You know?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have any, like, power of my own. You know, I don't see things. I'm not clairvoyant or however you want to call it. But if you give me a tool, I'm pretty good at getting an answer. And I mention this because, as you've experienced, when you stick me with some tarot cards, give me 1 second. Very interesting, hugest moth in the flat, and I had to kill it. Sorry, it was staring me right in the eye. But as you've experienced, when I sit down with my tarot cards and you ask a question, I do get right answers.
Yes.
And I mean, it's always been that way. I'm fairly good at reading people. You know, I've always been quite hypervigilant. I do believe in that kind of stuff, as in like paranormal, ghosts, dead people, but I personally can't say I've ever seen anything. One interesting thing, though, although I don't see ghosts, me and our other sister, not Mother Bingley, we've always had a bit of a connection, you might call it. And I know Bee's in there rolling her eyes because she's already heard this story several times. But trauma bonds children, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have the best childhood. So the largest part of my childhood was raising and protecting my sisters. So me and my other sister, I'm sure they won't mind me using their name, to be fair, they're never going to listen to this. So me and Finn have always been particularly close. You know, if I, woke up with a nosebleed, Finn had usually had one too. If I felt particularly sick, Finn would be ill even when I was at uni, cities away. And the creepiest thing that's ever happened, and you'll not enjoy this one, so I'm going to apologize, but I think it's pretty fucking cool. Happened not that long ago, maybe like 3 years ago. It was just before cut off that side of our family, because Finn was. It was in the summer before Finn went to university, and Finn and our mother had been arguing a lot. Like a lot. You know, Finn had come out as being gay. They were, had severe depression. Our mother is a bit of a homophobe, and just all around not a very good parent. And I was living in York with my now husband. And I knew that they'd been arguing recently, but, that'd been going on for a while. One night, I wake up from a dead sleep. Okay. And I'll touch more on this after I finish the anecdote, but I have a habit of dreaming things and then getting the weirdest sense of deja vu because it's already happened when I've been asleep. Okay. So I woke up, and when I tell you, I went from lying flat because I sleep like a corpse, I'm on my back and I'm not moving, I went to sitting up. Like a scene from In the Mummy when they toss the mummy and it springs. Yeah. Luke was awake, and it scared the shit out of him because I sat straight up from a dead sleep, turned to him before I even realized I was awake, and said, "Something's wrong with Finn. Finn needs me," and picked up my phone and started calling them, trying to get hold of them. Once I was more awake, what I remembered was I'd had a really, really vivid dream where I was with our mother and Finn. And we were at this kind of it was almost like an indoor water park, but it was circular. And around the outsides of the circle, there were tiers and balconies, where people could play. And I woke up because in my dream, Finn had thrown himself from one of the balconies. And I couldn't get hold of him. I was in fits. I was inconsolable. And Luke, was trying to calm me down. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm sure they're fine. Like, they'll see all the calls. They'll give you a call in the morning. Don't worry about it. Eventually, I calm down and go back to sleep. Finn wakes up in the morning, calls me and goes, what's wrong? Is everything okay? And I say to Finn, are you all right? And I explain the dream. And Finn goes very, very quiet. Because Finn fell asleep at 2:00 in the morning when I woke up. And at 1:30, they'd been planning to throw themselves over the banister and hang themselves. Because they were that low mentally.
Yeah. Okay, now.
Yeah, both of us were pretty creeped out by that. Now we can laugh about it.
Yeah, no, yeah. You look back on it. Yeah, I can understand. But wow.
Mm-hmm. When the running joke that we have about the brain cell.
Yeah.
For the audience, by the way, Mr. Steve is now part of the Brain Cell Initiative. Everybody I seem to know shares a brain cell with me. One person has it at any given time. It's usually not me. That originated because of me and Finn. Because somebody would make a joke and we would react in the exact same way at the exact same pace at the exact same time. It was like watching identical twins. It was creepy. So that coined the phrase of the brain cell, which then Hannah tapped into. You've tapped into, Ben's tapped into. But that's where it originated.
Wow.
But it's not the only time that I've done something like that. Recently, coming up on 2 years ago, my grandfather died. And that whole thing was very traumatic, so I won't go into it on the podcast. But the morning that my grandfather died, I had gone to bed the night before, and we were up at Luke's dad's, up north, where all of that side of my family is, in case we got told he didn't have long left. And what I said to Luke was, if he changes his mind and he wants to see me and the girls before he dies, I want to be close enough to go. So we'd gone up, and I couldn't sleep on the Friday night. And I fell asleep, and I remember this because I kept checking my phone, wondering what time it was and if it was acceptable for me to get out of bed yet. I fell asleep at 6:14 in the morning. Because at 6:13, I checked my phone and my eyes got so heavy so fast that I put down my phone without locking it consciously. I woke up at 9:00 in the morning to a whole lot of missed calls because he died that night at 6:14 in the morning. It's not always that dark though.
No,
so
no.
These dreams, the one with Finn was traumatic, very traumatic. But some of them are really, really strange. The way I like to think of it is like, I'll have a really vivid dream and then I'll wake up, and I know it's been one of those dreams because the first thought running through my head is, how the fuck would I end up in that situation? I had one years ago, probably when me and Luke first moved into the flat that we're currently in, where Luke, and the only bit of the dream that I can remember was that Luke had gotten out of the driver's side of my car, handed me the keys, and gone problem solved. And I remember having this dream and thinking, what the fuck? My husband can't drive. I don't have a car. By the time he can drive and I have a car, I don't still want to be in this flat. How the fuck would I get in this situation? And years down the line, I had my first car, this shitty little Renault Clio that I got for my 21st. And the window pops down when I put it down, and I can't, you've got to kind of push it in and then put the window up, otherwise it'll slide back out and it won't quite close properly. And I cannot for the life of me get this fucking window to close. So Luke offers to do it for me. So we go and sit in the car and he's messing about with it. He fixes it. He gets out the car and he walks around the side of the car, hands me the key and goes, problem solved. And my brain just goes, wait a minute, I've been known before.
Yeah, fuck that. I mean, that's
right.
Oh, shit.
And my brain short-circuited for a good minute. And he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I swear to God, I've been here before.
Because I had the conscious thought.
Right? I had the conscious thought of, wait a minute, That's how I got here.
That's some serious fucking Matrix shit right there.
Right, goosebumps shit right there.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. I had one this week, actually, which I meant to tell you about yesterday, and I completely forgot to, where I was sat in the office of my new job, and I'd done something on a bit of code, and it had worked, and I looked up to see the screen that's on the back wall, and I had just that sudden feeling of, wait a minute, that these actions in this sequence and what I'm seeing, I've seen before. And I could swear I've had a dream where I saw that exact screen where I was sat, and I thought, why would I be writing in that coding language? I only use this other coding language, which is what I used in my last job. So it wasn't as direct as the car one, but it's still creepy as hell.
No, see, we often refer to, like, you know, deja vu as being sort of like a brief moment in time with that one split second. We always think about those sort of things, but and you're not only is that it's actually for you, it sounds more like it's actually happening where you're able to respond to that incident. You're actually taking action. Whereas for the rest of us, we have a deja vu moment, and it's a brief moment in our time, down our timeline or whatever it is that we're witnessing, and we can't respond to anything. Whereas you are actually responding to something. That is fucking creepy as shit. And I'm not gonna lie, that's creepy as fuck. Like, that's mad. Like, wow.
Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy those ones.
Yeah.
So in summary, I believe in a lot of paranormal stuff because I experience a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see things. I mean, I'll explain for the audience, but obviously you know this because I've given you a tarot reading. I am quite attached to tarot cards. They are like my favorite medium. I always find them to be the most accurate. But I don't like to know what people are asking because I see a lot of these, you know, people in like they're designed. I know this is perhaps a politically incorrect word, so correct if you know the word I'm thinking of, let me know. But they're in what is designed to look like old-fashioned gypsy wagons.
Right.
You know, and then the crystal ball, and I'll give you a palm reading or a tarot card reading. And I see those in like fairs, you know, really gimmicky things. And all I'm thinking is you aren't connecting into anything. You're reading a person. And you're telling them exactly what they want to hear because you've asked their question and they've told you. So what I like to do is have somebody think of their question and keep it in their mind and focus all of their energy onto it. And then my energy goes into being, as I said earlier, a conduit. You know, I don't know the answer to the question. I just want to be able to help receive an answer. And then I read the answer that I get. And if there's something out there, whether it be fates or ghosts or dead family members, whatever you want to believe in, if there's something out there willing to give an answer, I'll get it through the cards. When I did the reading for you, I mean, I'm not going to lie, Steve, I'm still very proud of the fact that you are the first person I've made cry with one of my readings.
Yeah.
Well, not the last, but you were the first.
That's good to know. Without going too much into it, but it was very interesting to hear my thoughts being sent back to me, and or the answers, or at least the answers you gave being said back to me was very much resonant with the questions I thought of. But yeah, like you said, you don't care, you don't want to know the question, but you're interested in whether the answer makes any sense. And it did, because it did. It resonated quite a lot. So yeah, I appreciate that. I think our last meeting, we did a session, and that was very interesting. And I did actually do some research. I've just come back to. I know this has got nothing to do with, like, I know no one's going to know anything about this, but it's more sort of me and Kate on this one, really, Stickney. And even, in fact, I know B was present. I did look up some history of the area when we conducted it, and I thought it was rather. I thought it was worth mentioning now because we're discussing the cards. But there were certain persons, and to answer the question of, I think it was raised in the date, we were looking for a specific female presence, and there are several.
Yes.
Right. So there is something there, and I can't get too much information as to whether or not I can give you a full detail. So I don't want to give too much because I don't actually know, and also because I don't want to be leading in any way, in any direction, because I don't want to be misleading by saying. But there is definitely female presences at the time. So the question that you asked, the answer would be maybe, but yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So we can talk about that more later on, but definitely another time. But yeah, whilst you were on the subject of hunting, I did do some historical research from the area. No, nothing definite, but it's there is something there. So but anyway, yeah, I'm really wow. Like I said, my own experiences were all sort of more my family than my own personal thing. And I know my personal experience, as you explained, can happen a lot anyway. But
that's not to say that it wasn't something, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's just no. But like I said, I'm more of I believe in my own two eyes. If you told me that's a dinosaur, and I look at it and go, yes, that's a bloody I believe you. If it roars,
if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's probably a goose.
Yeah. Like I said, just for sort of opinion, of my own family's beliefs. None of us have ever been really religious in any way. We're not taking on that sort of thing, but some things have happened where I can't explain it, and that's and it is like personal, and it can be personal. It could be explained. I am open to suggestions, and I'm open to answers. I'm not going to say that you're wrong, but you're wrong. But they happened, okay? It's just
look. Sometimes it's sleep paralysis, but one thing to keep in mind is the time when you're most susceptible is when you're asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been sleep paralysis that was sent by something that wanted to show you something.
You could, yeah, absolutely. And again, like my brothers and sisters' experiences. Again, we were kids, so going back to that whole, we were more susceptible to sort of like when we were younger. But it was just, I didn't know what a mimic was. I wouldn't have known that. My sister hearing my mother's voice, I didn't know what a mimic was. I do now. And then when I look back at that time, I go, maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but we've never spoken about it since, and we're not going to go down. We're not going to go down that path. No one really wants to talk about it, but it's very interesting. And like you and Finn, wow, holy shit!
Yeah, it's creepy. Sorry.
The connection, that connection is very, and it's very weird because like you said, you're 5 years older than Finn, so. I do
might be 7 years.
I mean, even more reason why it's strange that you have a psychic connection, like you said, that you'd only expect with twins. And I have got there are twins in my family, by the way. I've got twin nephews. They are identical, and it is very. They are what we call. Their generation's the Quays. They're going to go up to be, they're going to be trouble. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, yeah. I've not heard. There's never been really a thing, but I have heard about the twin connection as well before, just as a thing, as a side note. I have heard about the twin thing before. So for you to say that you're what you think maybe 7 years apart, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's fucking weird. It's what it is. That's what it is. But I've always been interested in, and that's why I really wanted to go on to this particular subject, because it's fascinated me. It is probably why, for many years as a child, I didn't want to watch horror movies. They scared the crap out of me. And here I am now, and I'm more of I like horror. I like playing horror games. I mean, I like being shit scared. I mean, let's face it, who's never heard the fucking Homer scream from me at least once? You know, that, if anyone's, familiar with the Homer scream, it's obviously that scream that he does during The Simpsons. And if you don't know who The Simpsons are, then just don't stop listening, because go away. Who are you?
Yeah, go watch some. What
yeah, what you mean? But yeah, I love being scared, despite my reactions sometimes towards certain things in games, and I don't mind horror films. And it's interesting because we say about horror films, and I watched with I watched all of the Conjuring series. I watched lots of films, not just not just the Conjuring series, but the whole Ed and Warren, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Is it? Yeah. All of the demonologists, they were involved in few things that they've claimed. Now, whether you believe what they've done is true or not, I don't know, but I think it's all open to be suggestions. Suggestions there to be open to be discussed. If you want to believe in it, fine. If you don't, then fine. I know that there was some interesting case that they did study. I know one of them to be true. Before I'd watched The Conjuring, I'd heard about the Enfield poltergeist, which is, if anyone doesn't know, the Enfield poltergeist was, so Enfield in London, between 1977 and 1979, there was an alleged poltergeist activity, and it was created by sisters Janet and Margaret Hodgson, who are 11 and 13 respectively. And yeah, there has been famous photos of, I think Janet looked like she jumped off her bed, but that she claimed that she was levitated by a spirit. She claimed that she was being taken over, possessed by someone who died in the house. The house was in Green Street. It's a council house in Enfield, and that brought the attention to the Warrens. They only were there for a short time, but they managed to make a film out of this in one of the Conjuring films. So it's I think they made more of the story in the film than they did in what they actually did present. There were investigators that went to this place. It was just interesting. It was an interesting story. That when I said about watching horror films, I would never have watched those when I was younger. Never watched anything like that. So I stayed away from horror films. So for me to, I suppose someone might argue my love of horror games maybe has planted a little bit of a seed, and that's probably why I do see things now when I'm older. But I don't know. I don't think so. I like to separate the two things. I see gaming as a game, and that's it. I see film as a film. If there's just some supposed truth behind a poltergeist claim, it's a small amount of evidence that they've spun a yarn on, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, there's things like that really interested me. As I got older, I started to take more interest in these sort of things. Again, this comes back to when I said about hiding things. You know, my like for musicals, I kept hidden because until I met you, and then you were like, "Well, do you know you can?" You know, I've always liked some of the TV stuff or the TV movies that came on that were musicals, and I've never seen shows. Now here I am. I've seen Wicked, which is fantastic. Again, the whole paranormal thing, I kept to myself. I'd rather it be. I didn't want to mention it. Here I am now talking about it on a podcast, like those other things that I've spoken about in the past. Um, but yeah, I'm very interested in it. I'm very sort of open to believing or disbelieving. You know, I know I'll taking it with a pinch of salt, but at the same time going, I think there's something there. I think there's something. I don't disbelieve, like I said about my family's photographs. I don't disbelieve that's happened. I didn't see it myself, but I don't disbelieve who's told me. Because, yeah, I suppose it is, I am being loyal to my family. But, you know, I think, I don't know, it's hard to explain sometimes because I'm not trying to convince people. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I don't, you know, if you don't believe me, you don't believe me. That's fine. But it's believing my family because, not just because it's my family, but I think that they are generally telling, you know, what I saw to be the truth. So yeah, things like like I said, things like the Enfield Poltergeist I took an interest in that, and when it came around, we was watching all of the Conjuring movies, including the Annabelle films and the Nun films, which have a connection. You know, they're all sort of like linked in some ways. I knew about this particular case, and especially because it's London, it's kind of local. A lot of ghost stories that are supposedly, I think the Amityville Horror is also based around the Warrens as well. I think that was
So again, that one is them as well.
I think they are involved in that as well. You know, obviously the Annabelle doll was it a Raggedy Ann doll? I think.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And they believe that to be possessed. So they are kind of famous for their demonologist sort of investigation things and paranormal investigations. They were present on some things that are now in the media as in films. Obviously, you know, it's been spun a little bit to make it more entertaining, you know, the way in which films do. But I would say there's probably some certain truths. It's just a question of down to the individual as to whether you want to believe it. I know that there were going back to the Enfield Poltergeist. There were some things that were mentioned that the girls had faked, but there was also encounters that police officers had reported, had witnessed. I think there was one police constable had reported witnessing a chair wobble and slide. So you kind of think, well, if the police have seen it, that's got to be true. We are talking about the 70s. It's not like today's police. Let's not go down that road. But yeah, so like I said, I'm interested. I'm just really interested in it, and I want to learn more. And I would love to do a genuine, actual investigation, and I'm sure. Well, I would like to get the equipment because you can. I actually do own because I have because I've got a lizard. I've got a beardy. I do actually own, in order to keep track of temperatures, I do actually own a temperature gun. So I've got one piece of equipment, so I could easily bring that along. So I don't need that. But yeah, EMS, spirit box. Wasn't going to mention it, but yeah, I'd go down that road of Phasmo in real life. Yeah, IRL. And I'd love to do that. We did try something when we met up in York, which is very interesting.
Yeah, we did, which was very last minute and put together.
It was, yeah.
But I mean, there's a couple of abandoned buildings in York that I've said for years that I would love to like figure out how to reach out to the building manager and be like, look, can we go in there overnight and just see what's there?
Yeah.
And do like a proper, like, not necessarily ghost hunt, just like an exploration, take the equipment and see what we can find, see what we can figure out, ask some questions, see if we get answers. And just, because I mean, you'll have noticed, I suck at playing horror games. My anxiety kicks in way too much. But when it comes to IRL, because I have that kind of experience with things that are just slightly more than natural, it doesn't bother me because I'm exposed to it. When we did our impromptu kind of ghost hunt, let's call it, when you came to York, didn't really bother me in the slightest.
Yes. Yeah.
I know you and B were a bit nervous, but for me, that all feels very safe.
I'd say, you know what? I think it's not knowing. And I think that's what it is. It just comes down to not knowing. And I'd love to do it. I did try. Actually, I thought about a second time I had tried to do an investigation. But again, it wasn't conclusive. There was nothing there. We didn't have like real equipment. We had a camera, a video camera, and that was about it. I mean, the best you're going to get if you believe any of this stuff, but like if the best you're going to get really with a video camera is likely to have been maybe orbs. A lot of people say that seeing orbs is a part of a manifestation of a ghost. And then there's the other side of it is that if you see an orb, it's probably just dust particles. I did see, when we played it back, I did see something on the camera, but I couldn't explain it. Again, could be dust, could have been an orb. It's very, we did it in one of the places I used to work, actually. It was a pub I used to work in. And it's like a grade 2 listed building. So it's very old. It was around the time of, 15th century. Very old. It goes back to as far as I think times of like Dick Turpin would have travelled through there, or someone who would have claimed to have been Dick Turpin would have gone through there at some point. So it's quite old, And I did a ritual. Well, ritual. I wasn't alone. I was with someone who was helping out at the time. So sometimes you can get persons from other pubs. So this was a pub. Like I said, grade 2 listed building, very old. The inside is, the beams are from an old ship, which is, a lot of bases would have been built. Some of the walls still had horsehair in them, which is unheard of now. But like that's how old the walls are, when horsehair has still been used as insulation, which of course, is unheard of now. But that's what they used to use way back when. So yeah, we did a thing. Went around with a camera. I thought I caught something. Again, can't prove it. Can't say what I saw to be true or not. But it was really interesting. Yeah, so I've always taken an interest in trying to do something like that. I'm glad I came up to York to try that with you and B. But yeah, I'd love to, like, equipment wise. I know that this to be can be quite expensive. If we look up, for example, an EMF reader, you can get them for fairly cheap.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need you don't need the expensive ones.
Oh no, you don't need the expensive ones, but it's like I think it's Just some of them, but there's some of the ghost hunting equipment can be quite expensive. There is like the spirit boxes. Like they can be about 70 quid, up to £130. Just by searching now, you can get a basic sort of setup for about 20 quid. So yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive, but like just be aware, like it's not cheap to do. If you wanted the EVP, digital voice recording, yeah, you're looking at probably about 18 quid, 20 quid. That's
I really want to get my hands on is a set of dowsing rods. The rods that you hold and they turn it in for yes or out for no. I'd love a pair of those.
I have part of my possession. Well, apart from the firmware reader, I do have a monkey paw. I do have Mr. Linguini, the voodoo doll, and I've got the cards, and I've got some cards as well. But they're not sadly, they're not actually like real. I do also have the music box, which is just the which is the first one music box, which is actually the closest thing to being real. It's more usable than the rest of the stuff I've mentioned. But yeah, I'd love to be able to get the actual things, like all the others are not plushies or anything like that, or the voodoo doll, very kindly made for me by yourself.
Yes.
Much appreciated. And yeah, lives on the shelf over over my shoulder. So yeah. But obviously, actually, I do have a torch with a UV on it, which doubles as a UV light. You can have it as a normal torch, or you can click it over to UV light. It's useful for deep cleaning, actually.
I imagine.
Yeah, so the purpose of owning it is that you'd be able to look underneath shelving and stuff and see where certain things can stand out. You get used against you, so I thought, well, why don't I look for what they're looking for? Should I get a health visitor coming? A lot of health visitors use them to try and catch you out. They're like, right, we've got a UV torch here. If you've cleaned it, you'll know. We'll know. Like, right, fine.
We'll brought a torch. You can see you've come all over the walls.
Yeah, the whole kitchen's like a Jackson Pollock. It's
dirty bastard.
I stole that joke from Guardians of the Galaxy, by the way, just for anyone.
It's a good fucking joke.
But yeah. So yeah, I do actually have an actual torch and a thermo thing as well. So I could bring those along, guaranteed. Bring those along.
One thing I am looking to get is one thing I'm looking to get is like a pendulum necklace. So I need a board to go with it, but you can have boards that have like yes or no maybe written around the outside, or like certain answers.
Yeah.
And you move your hand and the pendulum goes to an answer. But you can get ones that you can kind of wear as necklaces to help tune them to you. And I found one that I really like, so I'm just waiting till I've got some money to get it.
I'm very interested in that, but at the same time, I think the only thing I'm more nervous about using would be a Ouija board. And I don't know why that makes me use those. That to me, and I know that might sound a little bit odd to say this, but I think that's the biggest channeling thing that you can get if you really wanted to channel into like something you don't want to speak to, like you don't want in your life.
You know what? I have a strong opinion of this. A very strong opinion of this. So, Ouija boards are dangerous, very dangerous, right? Because, like you said, you can very easily invite something that you don't want into your life. Okay. For me, when it comes to like trying to connect with something, it's the worst option to go for. Give me the tarot cards, give me runes, give me a pendulum, give me candles and ask me to scry into a flame. I'll do all of it. I don't care. Nothing can touch me because I'm in control. With a Ouija board, whatever's on the other side is in control. You're just touching it and it is touching you and you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, I got the Ouija planchette tattooed on me because I have a bit of an occult sleep going on. The planchette itself isn't dangerous. You can get planchettes where you can put pens in them. Yeah. And, as you move your hands, it draws squiggles and then you can scry into what you've drawn to read and find like images within the mess. That in itself is safe. It's something about the board. I don't know what it is, but I've always said it is boards and mirrors. They're the two types of scrying that I will never do. And I'm up for just about anything. But those two, with the boards, you are not in control. Whatever is talking to you is in control. And I find, especially with mirrors, there's two different ways of like visually scrying. You can either look into a mirror and you let your eyes unfocus and you can sometimes like see things or, you essentially hallucinate things, right? Mirrors are dangerous because for me, this is going to sound so fucking cheesy, but you don't know what's looking back at you. And people always say like the eyes are the window to the soul. And if you're staring yourself in the eye and something is waiting to take advantage of you, you are giving them that window to yourself. And I think it's the same with the boards. If you are communicating and you are asking something to use you to speak, you are inviting that thing to take control of you. And once it's in, it's very hard to get out.
Yeah, no, that's what I would have said about being cautious of some things. I just don't want to go near, and if anyone's going to use them, I would want to step away. And that being said, it's those that have been said that the Ouija board and the mirror is something that I would go. You know what? I don't want to know. I mean, I've seen. I mean, I think it's been proven to be just an entertainment program. I've seen some paranormal investigation programs where they're just classed as entertainment. Mm. They're only simply classed as entertainment because they cannot categorize them as being truth or factual. And that's the problem. So the entertainment side of things were the fact that they are investigating a known location. I think one of the locations they did, as I recall, was the Pendle Witches in Lancashire. That's kind of a famous sort of like location. But because it's famous, already any psychic going there can have information. So that instantly dismisses it being whatever they say that they are picking up on to be. You can easily dismiss it because there's too much background, there's too much.
It's what I say about the tarot cards. It's tainted. As soon as you know anything about what's being asked or what's already happened or where you are, it's tainted because your subconscious does a lot of work for you. You hear a tiny tidbit about something, and then if you're trying to read, it influences how you think of what's coming out. So if I was going to do a location, it would have to be something that I either didn't know, as in somebody else chose it and I just show up. Or something that like I can't Google. So if you said, come back down to where I live, I'm going to take you somewhere and we're going to do a ghost investigation, I'd be like, great, let me pick up my cards. I'll see you in like 4 hours.
I'll be there.
But because you wouldn't be able to tell me where it is, and you just say, put this address into your thing, because I'm driving, I'm not Googling it. So I know that when I get there, anything that I read is untainted.
which is why it was interesting when you came down, because when we did that, we sort of did something. I'm trying not to give away the location. Is basically what I'm saying. Too much, because I'm the one's like weird. I mean, there are enough of us about. I include myself in that. You know, I'm sure there's not many people that do listen to the show, but it'd be the one show that they listen to. They know where I live. So,
absolutely.
I'm being very cautious and conscious of the fact that that could be a thing. So, but yeah, when you came down, which is why I haven't mentioned the pub name, by the way.
Right. Okay.
Just because it is within the area. I mean, your hotel wasn't that far from it, but that's, no one knows where that hotel is, so it doesn't matter. And you're no longer there, so they can't stalk you. So basically that's why I haven't name dropped anything, because I'm just, I don't want people to think, I don't want any cranks coming along. Yeah, I know where you live. It'd be the one time that no one listens to the show that they do listen to it, and that's
absolutely
right. So I'm aiming for areas that are famous. That's why I said the Pendle Witches trials and stuff like that were kind of famous. But yeah, that's why. Yeah, I was really surprised when. Well, I say surprised. It was a lot. There was information there, and I looked up some things. I'm just going back to what I said about finding something earlier.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Again, I haven't got conclusive proof, but it's still interesting that there's a potential connection to the questions that were asked on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I'm really surprised and delighted, but by that as well. Not surprised and disappointed.
No, I get what you mean. It's
it's a good good thing. It's a good thing. So yeah, and I'd love to be able to go somewhere, maybe somewhere different. But yeah, I'd love to be able to do an actual investigation. Like I said, I've watched these paranormal entertainment programs, should we call them, and it's been proven that there had been some hoax happening amongst the crew. The power psychologist decided to play a trick on one of the psychics, and it turned out that he was using an anagram of a name. So they channeled into a name that doesn't exist because it's an anagram. And that's what proved in the end that they were fake, or faking it for the sake of, their own fame, I guess. Obviously, they've become famous from this. It's just really interesting. It's very dangerous. It's very tricky at times. I say dangerous. It's very tricky for people to believe in this sort of thing, because of media has exposed some people, like the Enfield thing. That's why I'm mentioning those more well-known ones, is because my own personal experiences might be taken away because people have said, well, the Enfield poltergeist doesn't exist because it's been proven, or the Pendle Witches, we know that happened, but the program that I'm talking about was fake because of too much information. So I'm open to investigation, but I'm being very conscious of the fact that people will point out that there's trickery involved, or there's some kind of bullshittery that could go down. And I'm not,
absolutely.
So I'm being very conscious, and I'm being very careful of what I say and how I go about saying it. This has been interesting for me to talk about this week, because as much as I want to talk about it, I'm reserving myself a little bit, because I'm like, I really do believe in this. Or, I could go full on and, completely go, I really want to do this and this and this. I do, but I'm also conscious of the fact that people will just point out that there are hoaxes as well.
It's something that like I would want to do for us. I wouldn't necessarily care about streaming it or whatever. Like we did when we came to visit you.
Yeah,
we record it. We didn't stream it or anything. It was just an exploration for us because I know that you can trust that I didn't research it.
Yeah. 100%. No, that's why the outcome's even more impressive for me, because I know it's vague. I know I'm being really vague about saying it because I'm not giving away locations, but honestly, it's more for my own sake than anything else. But the location that I gave Kate was to meet me at a certain place, and there happened to be it was an historical place for where I live. It was, it had a lot of, we was near, as there are in many, we're actually in a village, and with a village you have a rectory, like, we have like a church and stuff like that. So we do have a graveyard, and we could go there, and there's a lot of history there. And obviously, me being in the south and Kate being in the north, she came down to see me because we watched Wicked, which we mentioned on the last podcast. But the morning after, we did a bit of a like reading, or Kate did, and we asked some questions. We got some answers, and as a result, I've looked up for the history of the area what those answers could mean. Should there be any connection? And so far, there's a couple of things that stood out, which I still need to do a bit more research on, but it's promising. And it was interesting. And that's why I'm talking about it. And that's why I'm also been vague about it, because like I said, at the start of this little section here, guarantee someone will be able to listen to it and go, I know where you live. So yeah, I'm being vague, but hopefully I've explained enough to give enough information that someone can go, okay, you're protecting where you live, you're protecting the area that you're from, but at the same time, it's an interesting depth scenario and stuff that it's enough to explain enough that we did something, I got answers. Yeah, it's just, again, it's all about location, really. That's why I wanted to also mention some of the other things that happened that we already knew about. Man, I'm getting hot. I am getting hot.
Is that because of the spookiness or because of the gin?
That's because of the gin, but I'm also running out of gin, so I'm going to get another one shortly. Yeah, I don't think there's much more I can add to tonight. I'm really excited that we've done a little bit of this. I'd love to be able to go down this more, but with the maybe, because there are other podcasts out there that talk about actual ghost hunting. We're just sharing some of our own personal experiences, and whether or not I believe in, like, I think the end, as we're coming towards the end of it, do I believe in any of this? Yes. I think I've got enough information from my family. I believe in what my family is. I've seen with my own two eyes something that's happened that may or may not be sleep paralysis. But I see enough that I do want to investigate more. I'm probably less on the fence and more to the one side than the other. That's what I've come to realise whilst talking about this. I've known about it for a while, but I just wanted to actually express that. Yeah, that's all I've got to say really on this. Kate, I don't know if you want to add anything, if you can.
I mean, there isn't really too much to add, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I'm a big believer. Mm-hmm. I believe in a lot of things, but if there's any skeptics listen who want to be, want me to try and prove them wrong, by all means.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, things like ghost walks and stuff like that. I'd love to be doing that as well at some point.
Yeah, I mean, next time you come to York, we need to do at least one of those.
Yeah.
Because they are really, really fun.
Yes, that's what I was just going to actually add. But yeah, obviously this is completely. This I say it's completely somewhat off topic compared to what we have been talking about in the previous podcast. But it was something I wanted to do, and it does relate to something along the same lines of what we did when we met a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, there was that. So yeah, it struck a little bit of a chord in me. I was like, oh, you know what? Let's do it. Can we talk about paranormal? And we have. We've done it in our own way. We've done it our own take on it. It's not they're not famous talks, but their own personal experiences, and that's all I really wanted to do. Like I said, there are other podcasts out there that do other much better podcasts, and they tend to aim at more famous things than what we have. I've highlighted famous examples, but that's it. That's as much as I was willing to go down because I'm not a massive expert on this, and I want to be. I want to get more into it before I start becoming more of a know-it-all kind of thing. If that makes sense. I'd rather just have some more information. So yeah. So I appreciate that we've done this. I'm sure in the next week's podcast there will be another subject that we can go down, or we can come back to a previous. We can go in the circle. What haven't we done yet? I mean, I guess anyone who's got any suggestions, like we keep saying it every week, actually. If anyone's got any suggestions, if you want us to talk about something, what is your favourite type of media? Yeah, let us know, and I'm sure we can find a topic. I'm making an assumption here that due to this week's topic, there probably isn't, or isn't it?
Well, that depends on how much time you've got, because I do have a little something.
If you do, then great. We can actually, we can sort of bring this podcast towards an end now, if that's the case. Yeah. If you've got
Shall we play the jingle?
Let's do it. Wherever it is.
Because I hope you've got better luck finding than I do.
Is it? And isn't it? And isn't it a porn game? Did we both play at the same time? We did.
I think we did.
That was weird. All right, I'll probably.
Talk about the brain cell.
It was literally a second apart. But yeah, there we go. It's all yours.
Okay. So, this is only going to be a small one. However, I made the mistake of trying to Google about different media that may or may not include sex with ghosts. And it took me to a very weird corner of the internet, so I quickly left that website. It started asking for credentials, are you over 18, what's your national insurance number? It was weird when I got back there. But what I do have for you are a couple of books, and this was a much safer search. And what I'm going to ask you is, does this book contain sex with a ghost? Or is it just a horror book? So, kind of in line with what we usually do. I'm going to start with something that I think is probably a little bit easier. And we'll start with the classic, The Shining by Stephen King. Or does it not include sex with a ghost?
Oh, do you know what? I think there's I do recall being this one of those films that because I was scared of watching horror movies, I didn't watch it until I was much older. So it's fairly fresh. And I think there is suggestion, but I don't think there's full of. I don't No, I don't think there is. I don't think there is. I can't remember.
You're absolutely right. There is no sex with a ghost in Stephen King's China.
Yes. But there is a naked woman in it.
There is.
She was a ghost, yeah.
Yes. But no sex. No sex with a ghost. Anyway. Let me find another one on my list because I've put together a couple of them. Something perhaps a little bit more difficult. The Last Hour.
The Last Hour?
By Charles Sheehan Miles.
Okay. I've not heard of this. And as you know, I try to look for a pattern. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, there is.
I can reveal there is sex with a ghost.
Oh,
This is somehow a smut book.
Of course it is.
About sex with ghosts. Which I thought was just weird as hell. But I mean, I'm not here to judge. Okay? Next we will go for the next one on my list because I'm trying to mix it up in case you try to predict a pattern again. We're going to go with The September House by Carissa Orlando.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Just right. What's it called? The September House.
September House.
It sounds. Is it another book?
Yes,
it is. See, the thing is, I know about you and your books. I think I do. It makes me want to think, well, yes. And it sounds...
You're saying yes?
I mean, there's no suggestion within the title.
Well, that is the point of the game, Steve.
So that's why... Yeah, no, very, very true, very true. But I think this one is also a bit of a smutty book. And it's
okay. I can reveal that The September House has no sex in it at all.
Oh wow. I mean, that kind of makes
It is about a woman who lives in a haunted house and refuses to leave. Focuses a lot on psychological tension.
At the end of this, if you don't mention it yourself, I will mention it afterwards. But anyway, come on, carry on. Okay, so I've only got one right so far, I think.
Yes. Okay. We're then going to go for House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski.
House of Leaves?
That's House of Leaves.
Right, okay, so... Oh, well, then this has to. This one has to. It's a book. It has to. I said that last time, but yeah, I'm basing it on your reading history.
It's a smart book?
I think it's a smart book. Sex with a Ghost.
Yeah. House of Leaves, I will read you the premise. An unconventional maze-like book about a family who discovers their house is impossibly larger on the inside than it is on the outside, and the dark, shifting labyrinth they explore. There is no sex in this book.
Oh,
so what is the point of reading it then?
Oh, there's Mrs.Bingly's tech. It's supposed to be very disorienting. It's got like very experimental formatting and quite claustrophobic because you're supposed to feel lost when you're reading it. It's supposed to be very, very good.
See, it
is on my to read list.
As a concept of a night, like a book to read, that sounds interesting. But the previous one sounded like it should do. Weird, right? Okay, is that it, or do we have one more?
I can do one more.
Right.
I can do one more. Let me find a good one for you. Okay, Apartment 2B by Kay Webster.
Apartment 2B. Right. Uh, no. I don't know. I kind of lost my own pattern here, to be honest, but no.
Are you saying no?
I'm going to say no.
Can reveal. There is sex with a ghost.
Oh my God! See, I should have just carried on saying yes because I said yes. I thought, well, yeah, you broke your pattern, didn't you?
I did.
You deliberately done that. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is about a woman who flees from a rather abusive home and is rescued by a mysterious stranger, and who ends up being a ghost, and she fucks him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So I'm afraid that's all I have for tonight.
Is it a porn game? Love that. That very good. I noticed only one film though, which is the one that I got right, I think. But then I said I thought I knew your books, and it turns out I didn't.
Look, I do read a lot of smutty books, right? But I do also love a good existential horror.
So you do like horror, but only in certain formats? Yes.
Right. I can read horror for days. Love it. I can watch horror if it's certain kinds. Can't play horror games. My anxiety gets the better of me.
Yeah. So so it's kind of the opposite of me, really. I mean, I do like reading horror books. I don't mind watching horror films, but I'd love playing horror games. So yeah.
See, I love to watch people play horror games.
Yeah.
But I care more about people's reactions to them, which is why our mutual friend, who in Discord I shall not name, when he plays horror games, amuses me to no end. I will sit and watch the VODs of his Twitch streams.
Yeah.
Because his screams bring me joy.
Yeah. No. As yeah, I think that was brings it to an end. Oh, I was about to say, I can't remember I couldn't think of the name of the book, unfortunately. But yeah, so if I think of the name of the book, I'll let you know what it is. But basically, I came upon this. Well, no, I might have seen it on Book Talk. But yeah, someone suggested it. So I'll give you the sort of synopsis, sort of premises of the book. A cursed house where 3 men have been living, and they all come from different time periods.
Oh, interesting.
Until one day a woman turns up.
Okay.
Not so much ghost, but like there's definitely like they can't die. But I'll try and find the name of it, and I'll send. I don't know if I've actually put it in the book section. Book club. I may have left it out because it was probably too strong. No, it's not there. I am briefly going through it. No. But yeah, when I do find it, I'll let you know. But yeah, so the basic premises of the book is that 3 men from 3 different time periods have all been caught into this house. They're cursed. They can't leave the house. And then one day, in the present time, woman goes in and basically there's she goes down. And but yeah, it's that. Yeah, I'll find that out. Anyway, so that is it for this week's podcast. We're done for this evening. Probably shorter than normal, but that's fine. It's more than an hour and a half. So yeah, it was good. It's a good topic. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about my personal things. I enjoyed this. Wow, did I enjoy listening to your personal stories, because that's something else. I'd be interested in hearing anybody else, if anyone's got, something that they wanted to add, if they've got their own personal things as well.
Yeah, if you've ever had sex with a ghost, drop it in the comments.
Yes. How did that go down? Or did they? Or maybe they didn't.
If they didn't, why did you even continue?
Yes. But that's it. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks very much for everybody who was watching live. And thanks for everybody who listens. We are available over on YouTube, as to be decided, with Mr. Steve and Mrs. Bingly's own YouTube channel. You can relive this whole experience in a slightly more edited version. Or you can listen to other on Spotify or the Apple podcast, or anywhere that you find your podcast on. So, yes, thank you very much for being here. And remember, don't have nightmares. See you again. Till next time. Bye.